I'm going to have to stretch for this video because, wow, we have a lot to talk about. The Dodgers, I'm going to rock out with the Dodgers hat today. All of a sudden, they might not be the favorite in the NL West. That might be hyperbole. That might be me being dramatic, but I'm serious. In the last couple weeks, they've lost out on 3 key players of the 2020 World Series run. First, it was Alex Wood. Then it was Kike Hernandez, a hometown fan favorite. And then all of a sudden, maybe he's not hometown. I can't remember where he's from. But then all of a sudden, you now add Joc Pederson to that group of players that made a significant impact in the postseason, and they're just gone. So we're going to go ahead and break down the signings in just a second because Joc Pederson was the most recent. We also have the Phillies picking up a few players. The Cardinals, there are some wild rumors surrounding Nolan Arenado, the fact that he might be heading to St. Louis, so we'll go ahead and break that down. But first and foremost, we have 2 breaking stories that I want to talk about. Daniel Murphy, who once upon a time between 2016 and 2017 when he was with the Nationals, he might have been the best hitter in all of baseball, and he was a playoff legend for the Mets about 6 to 7 years ago. He is now retiring from Major League Baseball, which is crazy to say. I thought that he still had a little bit of juice and some gas left in the tank, but apparently he is deciding to hang it up. I wanted to say thank you to Daniel Murphy for providing some of the greatest moments that I've seen in the playoffs ever of all time in the game of baseball. So he is going to be greatly missed. I know a lot of Mets fans are pretty sad because once upon a time, again, he was kind of the face of the franchise. No longer, he is hanging up the cleats. And then kind of at the same time, Masahiro Tanaka is retiring from Major League Baseball, but that's because he's going back to Japan on a 1-year, $7.7 million deal. I don't understand this. He's getting $7.7 million in Japan, but he wanted $15 million in excess from other teams. How? What? You're telling me that he couldn't go back to the Yankees for $7 million? I mean, they took a flyer on him once upon a time. He was great for about 6 or 7 years, kind of a roller coaster career. But for the most part, Tanaka was very dependable. Everyone in New York seems to like this guy. I just don't understand why he's retiring from MLB to go play in Japan for $7.7 million. I mean, maybe a lot of teams were not going to give him the 10 to 15, the $20 million that he was expecting. So again, very, very strange. I don't understand the move, but I tip my cap to Daniel Murphy and Masahiro Tanaka as officially they are done in Major League Baseball. Another breaking story, this might be my favorite report of the new year. Ken Griffey Jr., the kid, has been hired by Major League Baseball as a senior advisor to Robert Manfred. That is some of the greatest words that have ever come out of my mouth. I'm not even talking about 2021, of the history of this channel. Ken Griffey Jr. has been hired as a senior advisor to Robert Manfred. His role will focus on consulting the commissioner's office on a variety of issues, including an emphasis on baseball operations and youth baseball development, including the improvement of diversity at amateur levels of the sport. So he's worried about kids playing and getting a more diverse group of kids interested in the game of baseball, and I could not be more excited. This almost brought a tear to my eye. Griffey Jr. is back, and he's an advisor to Manfred. I mean, this is amazing. Thank you. You did something right, baseball. Little golf clap, huh? But let's go ahead and break down the Joc Pederson signing. He signed a 1-year deal with the Cubs for $7 million. So they let go of Kyle Schwarber, and then they kind of filled the same role with Joc Pederson because both of these guys are not very good against lefties, but what they do is they hit the baseball very, very far. They're kind of slow. They strike out a lot, and they don't play the best defense. But I do think right now going into 2021 that Joc Pederson is a little bit better than Kyle Schwarber. So they kind of just traded. They pretty much said, hey, Kyle, we love you, but we're going to go ahead and sign Joc Pederson. Now, the craziest part about this is before the Cubs signed Joc Pederson with this $7 million deal, the entire NL Central combined, since the end of the World Series, the entire offseason, every single team in that division spent a combined $4.5 million on free agents. 4.5 between 5 teams combined. What even is that? So I'm happy to report that they are finally starting to get the gears spinning a little bit. So Joc Pederson, he is going to be inserted in that lineup. If Anthony Rizzo ever needs a day off, they can put Joc Pederson at first base. He can play left field, right field. I mean, it's not going to be right field because that is Jason Hayward's position to man. But I do like this signing. The Cubs were kind of having a rough offseason, so I don't really know if they're rebuilding, if Chris Bryant is going to be on the team, if they're going to shop Javier Baez. So if you're a Cubs fan, please let me know. It's kind of a confusing deal, but $7 million, I would say that's fairly cheap for a guy that can hit 35 to 40 home runs. Moving on over to the Phillies. Matt Moore signed a one-year deal worth $3 million. The Phillies continue to disappoint me. They maybe go from a 5th place team to a 4th place team because of this deal, and that's me being generous because Matt Moore once upon a time was a very promising prospect for the Rays. He had a really good season in his rookie year, but then everything kind of went downhill. He goes to Japan, and then he has a 28% K rate. He has an uptick in velo, so maybe he could be good as a 4 or 5 starter, but the Phillies, they have to do so much more in that rotation if they want to make some noise in that division. And last but not least, for the signings, Adam Wainwright is coming back to the Cardinals on a one-year, $8 million deal. He is not going to go anywhere. If Adam Wainwright goes to a different team, I'm going to be upset. He means everything to that franchise. He is the captain. It was kind of Chris Carpenter giving the reins off to Adam Wainwright. Do you guys remember how good Chris Carpenter was back in the day? Kind of Corey Kluber, the first edition of Corey Kluber, just an absolute machine, didn't really show too much emotion. And then Adam Wainwright, he said, I got this. I am the captain now. I'm glad that he is re-signing. Now, speaking of the Cardinals, they are trying really hard to get Nolan Arenado, and this has been a conversation that has been in the works for 2 years now. The Cardinals would be a perfect fit, in my opinion, both to get Chris Bryant, even though Chris Bryant doesn't like the city of St. Louis, and Cardinals fans absolutely despise Chris Bryant. I think that he would be money in that lineup and playing third base, but Nolan Arenado is just as good. Now, another team that has checked in is the Atlanta Braves. If the Braves somehow get Nolan Arenado or Jose Ramirez, they've been linked to both of those guys, it's pretty much a done deal. I don't know how you're going to beat Soroka, Fried, Ian Anderson. You now have Charlie Morton, and then you have Pache, who showed promise in the playoffs. You have Acuna, you have Albies, you have Freddie Freeman, you have d'Arnaud. I mean, they might be the most complete team in all of baseball talking about the Atlanta Braves. So it's going to be so much fun to watch. The Yankees go at it. The White Sox go at it. The Padres. You have the Atlanta Braves. So many amazing teams in Major League Baseball. So 2021 is going to be a mad dash to the finish line. Now, one thing I will say that is kind of interesting is the ace of the Cardinals, Jack Flaherty, put out a tweet kind of saying that he was excited. What is he excited for? Maybe he was hyped that Ken Griffey Jr. is back in baseball as a senior advisor, so the game of baseball is going to get better and better. Or does he know something that we don't? It came around the same time that the Arenado rumors started floating. If he goes to the Cardinals, I mean, that division is going to be pretty crazy. It's kind of wide open right now because none of the teams, like I said, before Joc Pederson signed with the Cubs, every team combined in the Central spent $4.5 million. That is chump change. That is nothing. I mean, Matt Moore alone, just like I explained, was in Japan for the last year, and he got $3 million. And the entire Central only spent $1.5 million more of that. Crazy to say that out loud, but Jack Flaherty hoping that they can possibly get Nolan Arenado, or he's excited about something else. I'm not too sure. The final thing that I want to talk about, stonks. Game stonks, GameStop. The fact that it has something to do with baseball is just crazy to me because everyone knows that Robinhood, GameStop is going up in regards to stock price and AMC and everything like that. Well, the Mets owner, Steve Cohen, Uncle Steve, he actually was under fire yesterday because what happened is that he's known for being a little bit shady in the past in terms of his hedge fund .72. I think a couple years ago he was fined $1 billion. I could be wrong. I read that somewhere, so if I am, please correct me in the comment section down below. But his hedge fund is already down 10% in January alone, so he has 11 months to recoup the money that he's lost. But the biggest story was he bailed out Gabe Plotkin, who runs Melvin Capital, with a $2.75 billion relief, kind of just infusion of cash, so that Gabe, who was down 30% because of GameStop, he was shorting it, and then all of a sudden Steve Cohen comes in with another guy and they bail this dude out. And a lot of people, including the CEO and the founder of Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy, he is not happy with Steve Cohen. And actually the main people behind the GameStop infusion of the stock price, Wall Street Bets, it's a Reddit group. They openly said on Reddit that they're targeting Cohen, and they said, and I quote, Mets owners and losing all of their money in the stock market. Name a more iconic duo. So Wall Street Bets, all of the internet, they are coming after Cohen. Cohen is trying his best to deflect. He put out a tweet saying that he had nothing to do with the GameStop shortage and that he was bailing out someone that made him a couple $1 billion a few years ago. So that pretty much does it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. We talked about a lot. So if you're interested into baseball, anything like that, I would really appreciate a like as well as a subscribe. Also, I'm giving away a Glaber Torres jersey over on my Twitter at FuzzyFromYT. That's also my handle on Instagram, Twitter, so follow me on all my social media. Stay safe out there. I'll catch you guys in the next one.